what really will help is if people in the city start to wake up to what's happening, because a lot of people aren't really aware of how bad this is and how it's going to affect them in the coming years.
Yeah,
So
they're
it's
not
gonna have a
aware.
compounding effect.
And with the news not being on Facebook and stuff like that, it makes people, not that that news you want to look at, but it makes people unaware that anything's going on. And that's the dangerous thing.
That's actually the most important thing right now. For my time in news, what I've learned is the lies that the media tells outright aren't the worst. It's their lying by omission, which I think is the most insidious and the most dangerous thing that the news does. And right now, global news, they haven't touched on this. They weren't at the town hall meeting that happened 5 days ago in Westwold here. They weren't documenting all of these farmers' problems. You know, they are lying. They're currently lying by omission, and I think that's a despicable thing on the mainstream media part.
100%. And you know what? I think now is a good time to bring up our connection to Global News. Many people know I was fired from Global News. I was a newscast director there when I realized we were lying by omission by not telling the public things they needed to know about the vaccine and about lockdowns and about masks and about vitamins and all those things. That was making me bonkers, and the origin. But you actually, you know what? Let me just play this first. You are like a beacon of light for me, because when I worked at Global News, I never told this story too much. I found a documentary called Heroes No Longer. And when I saw that documentary, I was like, this is the first time I'm seeing anything that makes sense. So I actually want to play a little clip of that documentary. And then when we come back, I want to talk to you about our Global News connection. So hang on.
COVID has turned out to be one of the most easily treatable viruses. And people need antiviral treatments to keep them out of hospital when they get sick. And the fact that the authorities have denied that to them and told doctors like me that I'm not allowed to prescribe ivermectin anymore is absolutely unethical. All of the COVID mitigation strategies that the authorities have imposed upon us, whether they're masks or lockdowns or social distancing or vaccines, or all of these things are all about safety. That is the whole focus of this thing, is about safety. And so if safety really is the issue, the question is, why do they withhold treatment from people who get COVID?
So that is a clip from Heroes No Longer, which is also a documentary that you made, Simon, which was removed from YouTube and at the time. But I had found this documentary, and I want to tell people I reached out to you. I called you one day, or I asked you for your number or something, and you're like, who's this lady calling me? And then when we talked, I came to realize, maybe you can tell people, but what is your connection with Global News, if you don't mind telling us?
Yeah, so I was a freelance camera operator for about a decade. I started out a few years doing work for CTV, and then Global discovered that the work I was doing was really good. I was always boots on the ground any time of the day. So I got on with Global, and they they started paying me pretty well to cover breaking news. So so fire, flood, people of interest in communities. I did stories like on people. You know, there's this one kid in Merritt who ran close to 200 kilometers to raise for charity. So I'd be covering a wide range of things.
You were our global stringer camera guy up in the interior, so to speak. And we have stringers in different places. So we call our camera guys to say, hey, can you cover this? And you work with us, essentially. You're our freelance guy, go-to guy. And we have a couple of those. So you were our go-to guy at Global for a long time. And it turned out 10 years. And we knew, when I talked to you after seeing Heroes No Longer, we realized that we knew a lot of the same people. Same producers, same editorial staff, all the anchors. We knew all the same people. So we have that connection. I was floored when I found that out.
Yeah, and that we were both, putting the same, puzzle pieces together and wanting to speak out, and being worried about what the consequences of speaking out would be, right?
So we all
So
know the consequences that happened for me. They kicked me out of there after working there for over 20 years. What were the consequences for you?
yeah, so my career came to an end when I tried to. Oh, geez, yeah. So there was a protest happening in Merritt, that was it was for agri recovery fund.
So basically, everybody knows what happened to me, or a lot of people know that I got fired, for speaking up and for looking at things and for asking questions. They threw me out of there after working there for 20 years. You were a camera guy with us at Global News for 10 years, and pretty much you met the same fate. I think you had to cover an event and somebody basically called the newsroom, snitched on you, and then what happened? Or
Yeah, so
mhm.
I was covering the protest with the farmers in Merritt who were protesting the government and the agri recovery fund. They wanted to have the government get the recovery fund out sooner to help farmers that were affected by the flood that took out a lot of Merritt Highway 58. And this protest that day was happening at the same time that the trucker protest was happening in Ottawa. And so I proposed to the farmers that we do a protest in solidarity with them, and also to help get the agri recovery fund on the way and get help into the hands of farmers. And the farmers they didn't agree with what the truckers in Ottawa were doing. This is the McDonald's on Highway 58. They didn't agree with that, and so I was pretty blown away. And so I've never turned down work with Global, but when I heard that from the farmers, I said to myself that I don't want to cover their protest if they're not going to help the people in Ottawa who are standing up for what's right. And so I called them and I told them that I wasn't going to cover the event. And then the next day, I got a call from my editor, Doug Fedora, and he said that I would never work for Global again. The farmers they called the newsroom and they told them that I was trying to influence protests for the truckers, and that I was speaking harshly about Global behind their back. And so
That's
Doug
not
heard that,
yeah.
and they decided to fire me, which was I think it was the right thing for me, because I was speaking out on my own social media quite a bit about what the news was doing and how it was so wrong. And it was just, I think it was the final push that I needed to cut ties, because I felt like it was turning into blood money. Didn't agree with anything what Global was doing, all the mainstream media. And so, in a way, I'm actually very grateful to the farmers in Merritt for causing this domino effect, because
Wow. Yeah. I mean, it's like being emancipated in a way. I mean, I feel the same way. And I was not getting down with the narrative either, because I knew how dangerous it was. And maybe those farmers in Merritt were also brainwashed because the media had done so much brainwashing to regular people that a lot of people couldn't see the forest for the trees and didn't realize at the time why it was so important to support the truckers and what they were doing. But you're absolutely right to stand on your own and say, I can't cover this. Like you're feeling your moral compass is guiding you to not be able to cover it. And the man that you mentioned his name. I want to tell you that very same man told me in the newsroom that ivermectin is not a thing. That whole study in India was debunked. It doesn't work for COVID. This is an assignment editor. The dangerous thing is, and he told me that, the very same person that fired you. So clearly, we know who is misinformed. We clearly know that. They are peddling an agenda that we can't get down with. And whether at the time you wanted whether the time the drug was questionable, which it wasn't, you have every right to try it. You don't get forced an injection. That's the whole thing. So these people, you and I have seen for ourselves what that corporate machine is doing to the public. And they are not standing up for the public, and they're not standing up for employees like you and myself who are standing up for their truth and for morals. And I can only conclude that that company is now, just like everybody else, fascist. It's a fascist media, corporate media corporation that has no interest in telling you the truth. That's all I can say. And they have no interest in covering anything like the farmers and the water, the fertilizer, the fires properly. Anything that doesn't fit a sort of narrative, they do not cover. And it's quite sickening, isn't it, Simon? Because we worked for them for so long.
It is, yeah. I saw a real downturn in their ethics in 2020. And before that, they were getting funding from Trudeau, but there was still a level of balance. There was still none of the work that I was doing was being used as propaganda. But when 2020 hit, I saw this drastic turn in how they operate, and then all these, like I said, all these things that they should have been talking about, they weren't talking about, and so I saw so many red flags right off the bat, and then the way I would hear my colleagues speak in the newsroom, calling unmasked people COVIDiots, and just very, very terrible things.
I heard the same thing. They would say COVIDiots to anyone that was protesting or anything. COVIDiots. Well, who looks like a bunch of idiots now? Because nobody respects them anymore. Their reputation has gone down the tank.
They've lost quite a bit of integrity, for sure. I think like almost all integrity. But unfortunately, there's still a lot of people who don't see that, and I think it's kind of frightening that there are people that still tune in and they believe what is on the 6 o'clock news
as the story, truth, when it's actually like a saccharine version of what has actually happened. It's the same typical coverage, vanilla coverage they've been doing forever. They never dive in deep, and they're not standing up for the people. And you and I are two employees that can attest to that, former employees that can really literally attest to that. And I just hope that people listen to us and get the message. Like, we've paid the price, and we've paid a financial price for it, but it's important.
Yeah, I've lost everything. All my investment into my own business. It was just immense for me, like close to $100,000 that I've invested in my equipment, and then the years of dedicating myself to doing good work. It all went out the window because of a really insidious ideology that's captured our media. It's really bizarre.
Yeah, no question. But no question. And I hope as many people can see this as possible. But back to what we're talking about today, the farmers, what's going on next? Are you working on something new? I guess, are you working on something new right now?
Yeah, so I'm working on part 2 right now, and we're basically addressing the aftermath of the first film. The first interaction with the NROs. Yeah, but since then, the community of Westwold has held a meeting, and there have been some, like the opposition politicians here. Todd Stone came.
Okay.
And while I don't trust him further than I can throw a stone, he still showed up to basically get the people together in Westwold to voice their concerns, and the basic consensus that the farmers came to that day is that they were going to turn their water back on, and they were going to disobey these orders because they're not backed up.
It's ridiculous. Ridiculous order. I would just also say that people shouldn't follow orders that make no sense. Stop just saying, I'm following orders. It doesn't make any sense. Don't do it. We need the authorities or the officers to rise up and say, you know what? This doesn't make sense. How can I enforce this? And if you say that Todd Stone showed up Everybody write to Todd Stone. Flood that email and ask him what you want him to do. Or who are some of the other people that well, I'll have to look it up, but there's some other people that didn't show up to meetings. Flood their emails too. Don't vote these people back in. There has to be consequences.
Yeah, there's a lot of politicians and people in places of authority that are not questioning what they're doing, and the public, from all this, the public's drawing their own conclusions, and it's overwhelming that people think that this is a coordinated effort to whittle away livestock production, because there is a growing trend of pushing, the fake meat and the bug farms in Ontario, the cricket farms. There's a shift happening, and all these agendas, they're not conspiracy. They're in on the website for the WEF, and they're on the UN's website about sustainability, and there's this really broad push in the West to limit livestock production and transition to another food source, which is not the way the West wants to go. And what we're seeing now, I think, is a push to basically little by little stifle this industry, the forage.
Yeah, absolutely. Kill the farming, crush the farming, put, restrictions on fertilizer, restrictions on water, restrictions on how you grow your livestock or look after your livestock, and eat less meat and eat, sure, you can eat less meat, but we're not eating that man-made meat. We're not eating the crickets. Nature made us this way. We've been farming and eating animals. This is the cycle of life. If we do it humanely, do it correctly, let the farmers farm. Let them do their job. And that's my message to this. And I don't want people to take this anymore. And I want people to be aware. And I just thank you so much, Simon, for all the work that you do. When I reached out to you after I saw that Heroes No Longer, I've always felt an affinity for you, and you were the person that helped me find Corinne Maury when I made my little secret little Rumble channel, and I interviewed her, and she told me what was going on, and she's become such a huge freedom fighter. So you really broken a lot of ground for us in the freedom movement. So I thank you so much for the work you do.
I appreciate that a lot, Anita, and you too. What you're doing is, I think it's amazing what you're doing, and thank you. It's very important that the people, like us, in the positions that we held before, it's important that people like us speak up.
Yeah.
Because we saw the inside, we saw behind the curtain, and not a lot of people have that opportunity. So I think, those of us who have kind of, I guess, an ethics in how journalism should be done, we need to stand up and speak out and use our skills to do what's right, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah, we do. So thank you so much for saying that. And how can people find you? I found you on YouTube. Are you anywhere else?
So right now, yeah, I'm on YouTube primarily, and on Rumble. I've decided to stay on YouTube because it's a mix of a wide variety of different sort of ideologies, right?
Yeah.
And so I think it's the best way to reach the proper audience, to maybe reach out to people who disagree with what's happening. Whereas if I was primarily on Rumble, I might not reach the people that I need to.
Yeah, it's hard because they have so much of the market share, YouTube. So as much as they censor us, we kind of need them. Yeah, I'm on there a little bit. I don't have as much presence on there, but at least people can find you. And this documentary is still up there. So I encourage everybody to go watch Stolen Water. Please check out the links in the description box below. I'll put everything in the box below. And once again, Simon, we look forward to part 2. And we wish you all the best, and thank you for the work you do. And thanks for talking to me today.
Thank you so much, Anita. I really appreciate it.
Okay, me too. Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.
Thank you so much for watching this video. If you found value in it, please like and subscribe and share it out. That's how we get the word out there. We are the news network now. If you are still paying for cable news, you are paying to be lied to. If you can make a contribution to my platform, it is so appreciated. You'll find me on PayPal at Anita Keeps Talking. You can donate through my website, anitakrishna.com. You can find me at Give, Send, Go, and all of these links will be provided in the description box below. Thank you so much for your love and support and engagement. I love reading the comments. And just a note, my Rumble channel name is AK Straight Speaks. I know it's a funny name. If I could change it, I would. So it is a bit hard to find. And on YouTube, I'm simply Anita K. Have a great day, stay strong, and I'll speak to you all in my next video.